LAUSD schools may close due to a planned strike by thousands of workers. The Service Employees Union announced that a 3-day strike will start Tuesday. Eyewitness News reporter Leo Stallworth is live at LAUSD headquarters in downtown LA with more on this. Leo.
Yeah, and that's the last thing that the superintendent of schools, Alberto Carvalho, wants to hear is there will be a strike because that's going to shut down the school system, school district. Wow, where do you go from here?
Well, let me tell you what we could do before actually shutting down schools. I continue to appeal to the leadership of the unions to come and meet in a room where it happens. We have 2 back-to-back proposals before SEIU with no counter-proposals. This process has not stopped, and we have more resources to actually put on the table. And I believe if we have a chance, an opportunity to have a dialogue and actually put those resources on the table, we will find a solution that dignifies our workforce, dramatically increases their salary without, quite frankly, creating conditions that should be unacceptable to anyone in this community as far as our kids are concerned.
Well, SEIU Local 99, their argument is they've been negotiating with the district for almost a year, and nothing has been fruitful. So at this point, they're demanding a 30% increase in wages. UTLA, who is part of this as well, is demanding a 20% increase in wages, among other things. Are you that far apart to where this can't happen in lieu of a strike?
I can tell you, if we come to the table where we actually can negotiate these issues rather than shouting at one another from a distance, everyone will recognize how close we are. And that is why it is disappointing that in the middle of negotiations, a strike is announced. I respect the right of workers to strike, but I'm here to convey to the workforce directly that we have not exhausted the resources to put on the table when we need somebody to negotiate with. And we have made 2 powerful proposals, put them on the table, with compelling compensation that is historic in terms of its level locally and unmatched statewide or nationally. We've provided a minimum guarantee of minimum salary that exceeds the city and the state. We made a guarantee of improved hours and health care benefits even for part-time employees. In addition to right now for SEIU, 15% increase plus an additional 10% cash in hand, that's 25%.
Well, the unions are basically saying that's rubbish. The unions are claiming that the school district is sitting on $4.9 billion in reserves.
Yes, I'd like to address that. That $4.9 billion of reserved funds that have been alleged simply does not exist. We have had a certified accountant, auditor, external auditor, does not work for LAUSD, to actually present to the board and certify that that is a falsehood. It has inspired false hope. We do not know where that $4.9 billion number comes from. With that said, I remain hopeful. We have additional resources to put on the table. I need somebody to negotiate a solution to this issue without, in any way, shape, or form, having to close schools and imposing further damage on kids, mainly in the aftermath of a previous strike and the closures associated with the pandemic.
Yeah, and that strike back in 2019 lasted for 6 days, only involved the teachers union, did not shut down schools, but then after that strike, soon after, obviously, we know the pandemic kicked in and kids were kept home, and we know when they eventually went back to school, there was frustration, a lot of depression, just a tough spot. Are you afraid that this will bring some of those old memories back in those kids?
Absolutely. I think we should all be concerned over the fact that our kids still have not recovered from the deleterious impact of the pandemic. Many are still dealing with stress, trauma, anxiety, suicidal ideation. To keep them out of school, again, is not something we have to do, particularly when I'm appealing directly to the union and asking them to return to the table and continue to negotiate. We have additional resources to put on the table that I believe will bring us much closer and, in fact, enable us to reach an agreement that will keep kids in school, keep schools open, and dignifies the great work that our workforce does.
What do you tell parents, in particularly single parents, who are going to have to struggle to find daycare for their kids? What do you tell them?
Now, I've sent direct messages to parents. Number one, I apologize for the potential impact that this strike will have on parents. Secondly, we will continue to do our very best to negotiate a contract solution that avoids the strike. Thirdly, if in fact this strike happens, we are ready to continue to distribute food at dozens of sites across the community. We are ready to empower parents with educational resources, packets of information, virtual education, paperwork for students to be able to do some degree of work, but that's just not an exact replacement for the great teaching that takes place in our schools and the great protection and food that kids get in schools. Schools are more than just education. They are feeding centers. It's where we detect social and emotional stress and abuse. Closing schools is tantamount to removing the safety net in our community. I hope to avoid it.
Okay. School District Superintendent Alberto Carvalho, sir, thank you so much.
Thank you very much
for taking the time with us, and
Appreciate it.
we hope for the best. I know this is a tough spot for the district. It's a tough spot for the unions, planning to go on strike for 3 days beginning on Tuesday next week, and that's just a tough spot to be in.